Hello and welcome to this lecture on risk mitigation strategies. These strategies are going to help us understand how we are going to manage or mitigate various kinds of risks that we have looked in our previous lectures. And we are simply saying mitigation is all about reducing the likelihood or impact of the negative events. And negative events are the negative risks that might occur. And we are also saying that it's also a very key part in risk management. So why do we need to mitigate risk? Why do we need to put in place strategies to ensure that the risk does not occur? Number one, we want to avoid costly mistakes. Number two, we have also to protect the reputation of the organization. The reputation of the organization is at stake when various risks might take place. We also want to ensure that the business continues to exist. That's what we call survival. It continues to be in the market. And we also want to ensure that the organization is able to meet strategic goals. Now, common risk mitigation strategies, we have avoidance, for example. So avoiding the risk altogether. So, for example, a company might decide to avoid a new product launch. Maybe they have done research and seen that this product launch the product might not go as planned. So they altogether avoid going that route. And then we also have reduction. We are saying in reduction, we try to reduce the likelihood or the impact of the risk. For example, a company might reduce the risk of data breach by implementing stronger security measures. We did mention about the risk posed by cybersecurity issues. So reduction means we can strengthen our technological systems. Maybe we have seen something that might put us in trouble in terms of cyber security. So we can enhance our systems, the systems that we have, to prevent it from happening. Then we also have what we call transfer. It involves transferring the risks to another party. So a company, for example, might purchase insurance to transfer the risk to financial loss due to fire. So that happens around the discussions in the insurance sector. When you get an insurance for your car, for your business, you are simply transferring the risk to the insurance company, that in the likelihood of the risk happening, that you will be compensated. And the other one is acceptance. This involves accepting the risk and its potential consequences. So the company might accept the risk of a slight delay in a product launch if they believe that the benefits of the launch outweigh the costs of the delay. So those are just a few methods. And then we also have what we call aging. In this particular method, we take steps to reduce the impact of the risk if it does occur. And we have an example here of a company that might hedge against the risk of currency fluctuations by entering into a forward contract. So these particular strategies are very, very important to help you understand on the mitigation strategy. So I would also require you to read more about them, know the advantages and disadvantages of each, and how the organization is bound to benefit with this kind of strategies. Now, how do you choose the best risk mitigation strategy? So you will be guided by things like severity of the risk, cost of mitigation, how much are you supposed to spend, and also the organization's risk tolerance. Examples of risk mitigation strategies: we have technical risks, we have cost risk, where you need to develop a detailed budget. We also have a schedule risk, reputation risk. We have a crisis communication plan in place. So reputation, remember, is all about the image of the company. So it is called upon us to have a communication strategy in case our reputation is at stake on what we can be able to do. And the other one is the regulatory risk. We need to monitor changes and keep up to date with compliance requirements. These are compliance in relation to government laws that have been put in place. Now, risk avoidance. This kind of strategy is avoiding risk altogether. We have already discussed that. So we simply decline to participate in an activity, or we choose a different activity. Maybe we have been warned by the team that we were consulting on matters risk, on the challenges that might find us along the way. We also have risk reduction. Strategy is the likelihood or impact of the risk. It can be done by taking steps to make the risk less likely to occur. So that is on the reduction. And we have already discussed quite a number of those strategies. We have something we call supply chain design for resilience. So supply chain resilience is simply the ability of a supply chain to withstand and recover from disruptions. Now, we have already talked about quite a number of risks. We had disruptions, for example, on what we call COVID-19, which is a pandemic that affected very many people, or people across the world. So that kind of a disruption required organizations to be resilient. So you need to have supply chain activities that are resilient to protect businesses from financial and reputational damage. During that particular period, there are organizations that completely closed down. So those that were able to withstand the pressure, then we can say that's a reputational supply chain resilience that they were unable to overcome. Now, why is supply chain resilience important? Number one, we are able to avoid costly delays and disruptions that might affect our supply chain activities. We will also be able to protect the organization's reputation, and also be able to maintain customer satisfaction. And finally, through being resilient, we will also be able to meet our financial goals and objectives. Now, how to design a resilient supply chain? What we need to do, number one, we need to diversify the supply base. So that means we are not solely dependent on one supplier. The other one is locate suppliers in different geographical regions. So do not depend on suppliers who are in the same geographical region. The other one is hold safety stock. So you need to have a buffer stock of goods in case of disruptions, and then also implement flexible manufacturing processes. So you need to, these, of course, flexible manufacturing processes are going to help businesses to quickly adapt to different changes. Now, examples of supply chain resilience strategies. For example, a company that manufactures medical devices might diversify their supply base to include suppliers from different countries. And of course, when we do this, we reduce the risk of disruptions that are caused by natural disasters or political instability. Another example is in relation to a food retailer, that we might locate the distribution centers in different geographical regions. So we reduce the risk of disruption caused by natural disasters in a specific region, and so on and so forth. So diversification is key here in this particular discussion. We also have other examples of manufacturers of electronics, logistic companies, I invite you to review all those examples as part of understanding the supply chain resilience strategies. Now, it is key for us to develop contingency plans. We say that this is simply a plan that is put in place to be used in case of unexpected event. So, when you have these contingency plans, then you have a variety of events that might be happening. For example, natural disasters, IT outages, financial crises, and so on and so forth. What are the contingency plans? Why do we need these contingency plans? So when we have the contingency plans, we are able to reduce the impact of disruptions. We will also be able to protect the organization's reputation, maintain customer satisfaction, and also we will be able to meet the organization's financial goals. Now, for us to be able to develop what we are calling a contingency plan, we need to be guided by a number of steps. The first one, and very, very important, is to identify the risk. So what are the risks that are going to affect your business? Then, of course, that will be done by what we discussed previously on by risk assessment. And then we assess the risk. Once you have identified the risks, you need to assess their likelihood and the impact. This will help you to prioritize the risk and develop contingency plans. So the other one, we need to develop contingency strategies. And then, of course, once we develop these strategies, now we get into the implementation part, where once we implementing is simply putting the contingency strategies into action. And through implementation, you can communicate the plans to stakeholders, training employees on how to implement the plans, and also testing the plans. You need to test the plans on regular basis. Now, when you are developing these strategies, number one, you need to be specific. What are the contingency plans? You need also to be realistic. You need to be flexible. You need to test your plans regularly. This could also be borrowed from the SMART abbreviation, specific. So if it is a certain contingency plan, give us a single contingency plan that is going to help us to mitigate the risk. And also, you need also to be realistic. Look at the organization's capability in terms of resources. There are contingency plans that we adopt that would require us to put in some finances into the business. So it is very, very important that you be realistic. And that's why we are saying in the final statement that don't just develop plans that you will not be able to implement. It is one way to have one thing to have very nice contingency plans, but if you do not have an implementation strategy, then it just remains on paper, just like any other contingency plan. Now, the aspect on flexibility, it's simply calling upon us to be ready to change. Even when we set up these contingency plans, we can change. We can always adopt better ways along the way. Flexibility means when we are setting these strategies, we are not limited to a certain way of doing things. We are ready for maybe an advice that we get from our risk consultants that on this area you need to improve. And the other one is now you test your plans. Ensure so as you are testing the plans, it is a way of checking whether they are effective, and by doing so, you will be able to manage and mitigate any risks that might affect your business. So based on those discussions around risk mitigation, I intend that you also do research on those strategies that we did mention, find out how they work, find out how different organizations are adopting to these particular strategies. That will bring us to the end of the discussion on mitigation strategies, and also discussions on developing of contingency plans for the success of ensuring that no risk is bound to affect us or put us completely out of business because we did not adopt these strategies. We did not develop contingency plans.